Newfound Glory. Y'all just recently released a new album, Listen Up. After 6 years of kind of not a hiatus, but just kind of a little bit of quiet, why was now the right time to release new music?
Well, there's an interesting story with this record, which is if you are a fan of our band or have followed our timeline, yes, it's been 6 years since we've released a record. But if you rewind about 12 months ago, we released a song. We released two songs, actually, but we released a cover of Part of Your World from The Little Mermaid on a Disney album. And shortly thereafter, we released a song called 100%. Now that 100% song ended up on this record, and that was actually recorded during the Part of Your World sessions, and that ended up being like a blueprint to this record. So basically, don't tell Disney this, but we had extra time when we were recording that Part of Your World cover. And so we were like, hey, there's a riff that Chad is working on, and it was kind of like already a skeleton of a song, and we put it together and recorded it, and it was like, wow, this is awesome. And once we started hearing it, we're like, first off, everybody should hear this. And second, this is going to be if our record or if anything that we do sounds like this, we have something good going on. And so, it's like I think we should put out a record now. I think we just do a whole bunch of stuff like this, and again, this is where kind of the blueprint for Listen Up came from.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Who or what inspired the songwriting this time around?
So the songwriting is always, in general, inspired by just us, just what we're going through. And obviously, the elephant in the room here is Chad and his cancer diagnosis he got a few years ago, and the subsequent, journey and fight and what he's been having to go through himself, and then even us, kind of indirectly, navigating his process. So there are a lot of songs that are related to that on this record. Now, again, if you know our band and you followed us, we put out an EP a few years back called Make the Most of It. It was an acoustic EP on Revelation Records. Great record. That one was very much exactly what Chad was going through lyrically, with his cancer battle. And that's, I think, why the music was kind of reflective of that as well, as like softer and stuff like that. This music for Listen Up, starting with 100%, and that riff is riff driven, very energetic. And I think that's where it spilled over into the lyrics, where the lyrics are, definitely influenced by Chad and his journey and the challenges he faces day to day with his cancer diagnosis. However, there's a positive spin on that. And I'm very happy that people have picked up on that. And most of our initial reviews of the record, they noticed that, because that's something that Chad inherently kind of took on once he started dealing with his sickness. He wasn't the person that's going to wallow in his mire or just, sit there and be depressed about it. He's going to turn it around and try to use it as an example, be as positive as he can about what he's going through. And so that's really the main inspiration lyrically for what's going on. Musically, we're just playing stuff we love, and we love to play energetic guitar riffs. We love to have catchy melodies, and we love to have fun when we're playing. And I think it shows on this record.
I think I recall you performing many times, so I can definitely confirm that the fun is always there.
Yeah.
How would you say your sound has evolved from Nothing Gold Can Stay to Listen Up?
It has evolved completely, entirely. I mean, besides the fact that obviously we are a lot better now than we were 30 years ago at our instruments. The one similarity is even back then we were having fun, like I just said. And so we still do that. And literally every record that we go to record, every time we feel like we're finished with the song, we play them live. A lot of bands, especially nowadays, they don't do that anymore. People are sending demos and recordings back and forth over the internet and putting tracks on. And next thing you know, you have a record, and it was probably recorded in 17 different places. We get in a room together, no matter what. And before I track my drums, which is usually the first thing that we do in a recording process, before I track the drums, we all play the song together. And there are decisions we make in those last few days, hours, or even minutes before, based on what does this feel like? Is this going to translate live? Do we think a crowd is going to like this, or do we even like this? And so, musically, I think we still do that kind of stuff now that we've been doing for 30 years. As far as the evolving, I think it's just we learned a lot in our first couple big records, and I say big meaning like the major label records, because we had Neil Avron working with us as a producer. He mixed this record, so he's still working with us all this time later. Um, we learned a lot about songwriting, a lot about how to take an idea and try to kind of see it through. And then along with Neil, we also had Steve Evans as a producer on this record. We've worked with him a couple times in the past, and because there's a relationship there and a mutual respect between all of us, he does really well with pulling whatever kind of performances we need out of us. Um, and then specifically on this record, also navigating some logistical challenges with Chad and his treatments and just his health as we were recording. We had to get a little creative sometimes, and not just with what we're going to play, literally how we're going to record it, or what order we'll do it based on what was going on. And this was a day-to-day kind of decision and process.
Would you say personally, or or where personally do you get the most catharsis? Is it in the songwriting, the recording, or the playing?
It's hard to like nail down one point, because I think every record, every recording session, every album cycle, if you want to zoom out that far, has some kind of moment, and it's never the same. So, I think when we first started, it was probably like the first couple times you heard something back after recording it, because like, at least for me, sitting behind the drums, I just hear drums, right? And it's really hard to kind of hear the whole thing. And then, on records especially, there's little moments, so like, I think one of the best days, and it's great because I just, so everybody knows, full disclosure, I have our like our CD booklet as a PDF opened up next to me, because if you wanted to get crazy with lyrics, I sometimes have to reference that. So I have it up next to me, but what I have and I'm looking at right now is the front and the back cover of our CD booklet. And the back cover, there's a picture on it, like a lot of CDs, but this band picture is, if you've seen the CD, it's not just us in the band. There's a whole bunch of people, and all those people were there on this one special day of recording, and that was the day that we did our gang vocals, our group vocals. And throughout the record, you'll hear these little sprinkles of a bunch of people screaming or some extra voices singing, things like that. That was probably the most fun day I had in this recording, because yes, we do it on almost every record. We have that gang vocal day, but it was so fun to have everybody there to play them these songs. They still weren't done, but to play them these songs for the first time, to have them participate, to kind of just go through and be like, oh man, this would be so fun to just try this. And then you hear it, and it's like literally a spur of the moment idea, but then you can hear it almost fully done within 30 seconds or a minute. And so I think it was cool, and it really represented kind of what this record was. It was a family effort. It was a group effort to take it from the beginning to the finish line.
Tell me more about your latest single, A Love Song. Who came up with the treatment for the video?
Yeah, so that's an interesting one with the video, because I will be 100% honest. I was not super aware of even what this would look like or kind of how it would turn out. Um, I was always good with it because I have faith in the powers that be, whether it be Chad or our manager or even record label. Everybody was kind of in on this idea, and I was just like, hey, I'm not going to say no, because I don't have a better idea, nor do I really, I'm not going to do it better or even want to try to do anything different. Yeah, so that it was just, let's kind of let the process happen with that. Um, and Samantha was awesome with that, and just like being like, here's a song, and what would you do? And I think the end result is really cool, because it's definitely her style. Jordan was able to get involved. We weren't sure at the beginning if he would even be in the video at all, and if it would just be her or not. But yeah, I think it's awesome. I think it's really awesome and totally different for us, which is cool, because yes, we had a video for Laugh It Off, another single off this record. We were all in it. It was great because, again, logistically, it wasn't something easy for us to do with Chad and his condition, to all get together and do a video. But then it's like, how are we going to put out more of these songs? And is it just going to be like a lyric video for everything? And then we have this really cool, like kind of edgy, like this is what viral clips are made of video. And personally, it's one of my favorite songs on the record too. So that definitely is a cherry on top.
I thought it was a very cool concept. What role do music videos play, in your opinion, in 2026 that they perhaps didn't in back in the late 1900s?
Yeah, exactly. Man, it sounds so old, but you're very true, because especially with our good old friend MTV being out of the picture completely nowadays, right? Yeah, it's way different. And so, back in the day, that music video was treated like a small movie. And if it came out good and you got the right, people or powers behind it, that would just instantly propel you to the top. Nowadays, even for a band like us, it's almost impossible to get yourself to the top unless you have a viral thing. And we're not a band that like has to be the next viral thing. We don't necessarily need to be trendsetters. We just do our thing. But what a video does for us is it gives us a way to express ourselves. And again, on this video or on this record, I'm sorry, releasing five different songs before it comes out, you have to start getting creative with how you're going to show that. And so that's where, again, the a love story video, or I'm sorry, a love song. It was just something that we hadn't done before. So the role of video plays for us is just another way to get the music out on whatever platforms needs to be, whether it's streaming, whether it's this or that. And for us, tour schedule wise, we have this huge tour, the Yellowcard, coming up in a few months, but we knew the record was going to come out at the end of February without really a lot of touring around it. And so you have to have something out there. If you have shows, it's not as important because there's going to be content from fans or yourself or both, kind of going on around that time. So it's just a way we're trying to stay top of mind. And there's all these industry kind of terms you could probably put in there, but we just want to have stuff out there and get ready for this tour that's coming up so we can hopefully play a lot of these songs on it.
Back in the day, all we had was MySpace. Those were the good old days. But now there's
That's
so
true.
many different platforms. How do you balance authenticity and advertising when it comes to your social media use?
Yeah. How do we do that? I think we are to our detriment. None of us are just like first on all social media, because we are the lucky generation, right? Well, we're that middle generation. I was born in 1980, to give my age away.
Me
So I
too.
grew,
All good.
yeah,
Same here.
exactly. Right. So we grew up with corded telephones. The internet was just starting and you had to dial up and you couldn't use, and like we saw that whole transition. So my existence is not based on whether somebody likes something or not. It's based on if I like it first, and then I do what I can to get it out there. And again, we have bands ask us all the time, like, how do we do what you did, or get ourselves out there like you did? And if I give the answer that I think is right for what we did, it like doesn't work now, because you should still go to local concerts and kind of promote your band. But like, if you give somebody a paper flyer, like, I don't know if people are even doing that anymore. Now they're just throwing something up on Facebook as a message, or getting somebody to repost something. Or even I've done cameos where people ask me to like advertise their show and stuff. So yeah, it's way different. But the role of like all that kind of advertising with us, we try to come off as authentic as possible, which sometimes, I mean, we are not cool kids. We're very dorky. We're the kids next door. We've always been. I'm literally sitting in I blurred my background, which doesn't help. I'm looking, and this is like the most just unorganized office there is. I just got back from playing some shows. I got stacks of drum. Like, come on, I'm a dad though, so I'm not going to go pretend like I'm a 16-year-old kid. I'm a middle 40s guy who luckily has done this for over 30 years and still enjoys it every single day. And I think if anybody at least can get to our concerts, like you said, you've been to our shows before, you recognize that right away. And we make sure the connection on stage is real, right? We don't hide behind computers and tracks and all this. And we are real people up there doing whatever we can because we love what we do and we want people to enjoy that. And I think we try to bring that into our advertising as much as possible.
Absolutely. The authenticity has always come across in your live shows. You mentioned, the band's been together for about 30 years. What do you attribute to that longevity? Because that's rare in any business, but especially in music.
Yeah, for sure. I think number one is the authenticity, right? Because if we didn't have that, one of us would have eventually called the other person out, or we would have just come to a head at like somebody wants to be real and somebody else is just pretending like they're something else. We've always been real, again, sometimes to our detriment, probably. But also, we've all done this together for the 30 years. We've been very fortunate, very few kind of changes to our core lineup. And so I think it's not even something that has to be done. Back in the day, we would say, if we need to, we can remind each other of what it was like to be in that van and sleep on that person's floor. And I don't think I've ever had to do that more than maybe some, making some jokes or telling some stories when people ask. We don't have to like check each other anymore, but we just know there's this mutual understanding of like, yeah, 30, it's exactly what you said. It doesn't take me long to remind myself of nobody ever gets this chance, let alone to be able to continue for 30 years. And if somebody asks me what I do, if I'm at the grocery store checking out and somebody's like, oh, well, what do you do? Because they see the tattoos and I tell them, and I say, yeah, I'm in a band and it's been going on for 30 years. And they're like, oh, do you play at the bar down the street? And it's like, no, I've actually gone around the world and I have gold and platinum records. And it's weird to say that, but it's also like that's insane. And we have been at the top of the charts. And MTV did shut down Times Square for us on TRL back in the day. And we've been all over the media and TV. And yeah, and we still months ago were on tour with Offspring playing in front of 25,000 people. And in a few months we'll be with Yellowcard playing sold out shows all over the country. And it's crazy that this is still going on.
You're playing with Yellowcard and support from Plain White Tees. What year is it? Because it feels like this is like the best time capsule. I'm ready for it.
Yeah, it should. And it should hopefully stay feeling that way for a long time, because that means I can continue to do tours like this. We've been very fortunate year after year after year for the last couple of years. We've had a nice little track record here. We had All American Rejects a few years ago. Obviously, festivals like when we were young and Warped Tour and things like that happening. Offspring last year, that was a bucket list for us. We have Yellowcard for the first time in 10 years, a little over 10 years for us. That's amazing. Like, yeah, let's bring us back to 2002 or 2004. That would be pretty sick.
God, people don't understand how good that time was. Things were so good. Music was so good. With 12 albums under your belt, how on earth do you go about crafting a set list now that makes you happy and fans happy?
Yeah, it's almost impossible. It's funny because when we're getting into tours, it's like, yeah, 80%, 90% of a set list, especially if it's not a headlining show and you only have a certain amount of time. It's like 90% of that set is pretty much written for you. And you have to make strong arguments if you're going to take out whatever song to put something else, because you're going to get tons of flack for that. And then you have to carve out space for, I mean, we just put out Listen Up. We put out 10 more songs. Like, man, so this is going to have to go up against some of these titans, right? And you got to play some of the new songs. So yeah, it's not easy. And ironically, if anybody saw the footage from our album release show, which is about a week and a half ago now, we played a small show in Nashville at a 200 cap club. It was super fun. And going into it, we were like, hey, let's just write this like completely different set list. Basically, let's challenge the idea that you just had, that like all the people there are going to be such huge fans that they're going to want to hear all these random songs. And we did. And it was really hard for us, probably harder than most people would think, because we had to remind ourselves of these songs and like, relearn some of these songs. But it was cool. We played something we try to do on every tour if we have time, is we try to play a song off every record. And I don't know if the casual listener is going to appreciate how hard it is to do. But yeah, we try to do it. But then, making a set, you have to look at the environment. Like, is it a festival? Is it a small show, sweaty club, logistics of how long you play? Like, it's not easy these days at all.
But it sounds like it's a good problem to have. Is your set list going to change at all for, I saw that you have shows in Indonesia for Hammer Sonic?
Yeah. Maybe. I mean, we're still getting into that. That set length, I think, might be a little longer than the Yellowcard set. Yeah, that's the other thing too, is depending upon where you are. Like, I don't want to say anything bad about all of our awesome fans here at home, but you know what? There's something about being outside of America where people just become a little more rabid. And I think it's they understand it's a little harder to get bands out there. Indonesia is a place we haven't been to Indonesia since I think the last time was 2015. I wasn't even with the band because my son, who's 11, who just turned 11, was about to be born, and I couldn't be that far away. And so the last time I've been to those areas was I think it was 2010 or something, 2009. So, yeah, once every 17 years. we're going to try to do something special, but I think the fans are going to do that for us. So these fans will learn every word, and even if they don't know, you'll have 20,000 people doing haze to everything without you even like telling them what to do, right? So it's a completely different energy. So yeah, the sets might be a little different, but also we, as weird as this sounds, would love to be a well-oiled machine as well, while still being real and human. And so yeah, we'll probably use that to make sure the Yellow Card tour is going to be good too, because fortunately we had the Yellow Card tour right after that. So we'll rehearse for everything. We'll be ready. People are going to get a great show no matter what.
Oh, of course. That's without saying. Do
Yeah.
you prefer those more intimate club gigs or the outdoor festivals? Because I'm sure
We yeah.
you have covered the entire spectrum.
Yeah, very fortunate to be able to have both. We get this question a lot, and I think everybody in the band would give you different answers. And then I would say I'd probably give you a different answer just based on the day that you ask me. Um, I have a really cool vantage point from where I am. I sit in one spot and I just look out on the crowd, right? And I can kind of see everything. And so I have to tell you that there is nothing that will top the view from stage in like a football stadium, or we played Welcome to Rockville last year, and so you're looking out on the Daytona Speedway, like places like that. It's just insane. It's insane when you look out, or like some of these festivals in Europe and UK, hopefully this Indonesia festival, the crowd doesn't end. It just goes on forever. Right. And it's like when you think about, for instance, we have a song Beer and Bloodstains on this record, which talks about where we came from and the little pool hall we would play. That if you had 100 people in that place, you couldn't move and it was great. But if there's 100,000 people, it's just like, this brings you back to what like it probably felt like for Green Day to play Woodstock or something. And so yeah, those are the things that like you never want to forget. And it's insane to hear the roar of the crowd when you walk out on a stage like that. It's very intimidating as well. But there is something to be said about sweaty clubs and like when people can crowd surf and get up on stage and you can hear every person sing along to every word. So I'm just glad that we get to have it all. We get to fortunately play big shows, small shows, medium shows, and just keep doing this because it varies itself and gives you some variety and lets you have fun every day.
And on top of that, like you've got a pretty busy year. You also have two stops of Warped Tour. Other than obviously the truncated schedule, what do you think is going to be different this time around with Warped for you?
So Warped Tour, very much looking forward to that. It's something that obviously we've watched happen for the last few years, and logistics or for whatever reasons would not work out for us. We owe a lot of our success to Warped Tour. We were a band that, as we were first, even for me, before I even got a Newfound Glory, I went to Warped Tour as a fan. I remember seeing Ian, our bass player. He was on stage during the Blink-182 set, and I was like, "How is this kid up on stage?" And there was a sticker flying in the air because he would throw stickers out, and I grabbed it, and it said "A Newfound Glory." And lo and behold, a few months later, I got into A Newfound Glory, into our band. Crazy full circle moment. But yeah, we played so many Warped Tours. We were on a small local stage in Florida for one show, and then a couple shows, and then it turned into 2 weeks, and next thing you know, we did the full tour a handful of times. So to be able to play it again is awesome. I know it's not exactly the same, but in some ways that's good. It's a little more comfortable, if you want to say. It's probably also good that it's not a 30 stop tour going throughout all of the summer, including days where it's 110 degrees in St. Louis and you feel like you can't breathe, or 130 degrees in Phoenix and eggs are frying on the asphalt, let alone people who have, dropped unconscious from just trying to set up that day. So yeah, there's good things about it, and I'm just mostly excited. I mean, I don't even know everybody who's on it, so I'm watching the announcements like as they're putting out, and it's really cool to see. It's unfortunately not going to have every band I'd want on our days, but it'll be cool to hang out, and that's what we hear from everybody that we know that have done these. It's a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And Listen Up is out now. Stay tuned for much more from Newfound Glory all this year. Thank you so much, Cyrus. I appreciate talking with me. It's been a long time. I